Welcome to Auto Off Topic. Hey, Brad, how are you?
Good evening, Andrew. How are you today? I'm okay. Not
Yeah,
great.
we've got some project car updates to get to,
Yeah,
but I think we'll do some car news first, unless you've got
yeah.
anything else
And
to
also,
talk
I'm
about
not going to
first.
be able to talk too much about a current situation just because of pending issues. I don't want to deal with things, so we'll see what happens. But we'll get to that. A little teaser for later. Anybody that follows me on Instagram already knows. So
Yeah, so it's whatever it's on Instagram we can talk about.
yeah, exactly.
um, all right. So I remember, I think it was almost 2 years ago now.
It was
There was
April of 2017.
was it that long ago?
It was because I had looked it up yesterday when I was talking about it. Talking about the news stories related to it in the office with a coworker, and I pulled up the episode of Reply All, and it was April of 2017.
Oh, I think I ended up on the 99% Invisible website. So it was episode 350 of 99% Invisible.
Okay,
I think they released on both feeds. But, anyways, I think actually that's how I heard about 99% Invisible. But what we're talking about is it's called the Roman Mars virus, Roman Mars Mazda virus. And Roman Mars is the host of 99% Invisible.
correct.
And long story short, so if you had like a 2014 to 2017 Mazda with like Bluetooth and car connectivity and all this stuff, and you were trying to listen to the 99%, uh, sometimes they call it 99PI podcast, the percent symbol was causing the head unit to reboot and crash like over and over again. Like it would just get stuck in a loop. It wouldn't
Let
play
me
the
make a
podcast.
quick correction. It was April of 19, not 17. So you're
That's
correct.
what I thought. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry.
Um, so fast forward to February or late January 2022 here, and apparently the Seattle NPR station, KUOW, has bricked a bunch of people's infotainment systems in their Mazdas.
Well, it didn't brick them. It locks them into listening to only KUOW and do nothing else.
No, it bricks them because the only way to fix them is to replace them.
Oh, okay. Well, but it still will pick up KUOW and do nothing
And only
else.
that.
Right. So it's not a brick, it's a one functional tool now.
Yeah, but they
A
basically
one
said
function tool.
all of them have to be replaced. So
Right.
far, this is the
Which is super
from
annoying.
Mazda,
Yeah.
which I don't understand why you couldn't like. Somebody's got to look into it.
Reflash
Probably you can
them.
wipe them or something.
Yep. I don't understand why either.
I have a
Yeah.
I had it ready to go here. Hold on. So this is from
Oh,
Brian Gluckman on Twitter, has a little more detail on it. So uh, the radio station is sending as part of an HD signal a station ID image to be displayed on the head unit. Only they didn't include an extension on the file name. So the Mazda
okay.
unit doesn't know if it's a PNG, a JPEG, or a vector SVG, right? So like sometimes when you're listening to streaming music, it'll show the album cover. The
Yeah.
the device needs to know that that's a JPEG or whatever it is. It doesn't know what this is, and it instead of like, so he says not only did Mazda not check on the file being decoded to determine the file type, preventing say a PNG being sent over with a JPEG extension, but they didn't include an internal counter to cause the head unit to reset the factory defaults after say 10 resets. So like it tries to open it because it's just a computer and that's
Yep.
all it wants to do, and it just gets stuck in a loop of not being able to know how to open it.
Yeah,
So
you
it's just
set a
like,
function and then it needs to complete that function to move on, and it can't complete that function. So it's like, well, we live here now.
yeah.
Super
And
annoying.
apparently um it's like a $1,500 unit that has to be replaced in these Mazdas.
So now who's going to foot the bill for that? Is it going to be Mazda or is it going to be KUOW?
Mazda said locally the owners should go to their dealer and have them submit a goodwill warranty claim.
Okay. So it sounds like
And
Mazda's going to do the right thing.
yeah, because it sounds like it was a coding error on their end.
Yep.
And then, with supply chain, who knows when you'll get your radio, but
Yeah,
it's
of
like,
course. With only Mazda's from 2016, that 1 year only, it says it's an issue.
yeah, it's like so
Crazy.
random.
And it's such like a conspiracy theory thing too you'll hear about now. Like, oh, public radio wants everybody to hear their side of things. So they stuck their radios on there.
Yeah. So that was just a fun, random, weird story.
Well, yeah, it's a callback to the other one because the other one, like you said, was the percent symbol. And I
Yeah.
don't remember what the fault was. It wasn't sticking them. It was just turning them off pretty much, right?
It would make them reboot.
Yeah.
And then, but like it wouldn't brick them.
Right. This is a
But
little
a
more
similar
extreme.
thing, it didn't, like the percent symbol, the way it was expressed, it seemed to the device that it was like a line of code or something.
Right. It was something to do with it be following the 99.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Like,
there's
what are
some
the
code in the
odds?
radio that like something 99% became a reboot code. It's the radio every time you put on the 99% podcast would just whoop, reboot the radio.
Yeah, I will guarantee that the Auto Off Topic podcast won't brick your head unit.
Until we upload this episode with a percent emblem after it. This is auto
Yeah.
off topic, 99%. Sorry, Mazda owners. The good thing is most of our listeners drive 1986 Mazdas, not 2016 Mazdas. So
Yeah, they're listening to their podcast through an FM modulator on their phone, so it's
correct.
Not
Yeah,
it's not gonna
it's
brick
fine.
it.
Yeah, that's an annoying story, and I'd be annoyed if I owned a Mazda and it bricked my radio because I was trying to listen to the Seattle NPR station. That's dumb.
So
And you're
weird.
right with the whole chip shortage. Who knows if that radio needs a chip, or with the supply chain, how long you'd wait to get one? Like, wonder if Mazda would just pay the equivalent for you to get an aftermarket head unit at that point.
I don't know. It's got that
It could even
weird.
make sense.
It's those annoying. One of those annoying
Oh, that's
pop-up
right too. They do like an
screens.
iPad on the top of the dashboard, don't they?
Yep, it's like Mazdas, BMWs, a
Yep.
couple other manufacturers that do it that way, and
Yeah, you're right. So you couldn't just do it that way.
I think they're really dumb
Well,
and
that's
ugly
no good.
looking. But
Well, that sucks. Thankfully, neither one of us owns a 2016 Mazda or lives in Seattle. So
yeah, but all modern cars should come with just a touchscreen that could also be replaced by a double DIN unit.
I think that all modern cars should just literally have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and that's it. That way, it's updatable
They
all
absolutely
the time.
should, and when
Yeah.
they don't, and it's a new car, it's really annoying. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how much money they saved. What, 2 pennies? Like,
Who
not
knows?
putting it in.
Yeah,
by
like almost
volume.
every new car, I think. I don't know if you can get a new car without Bluetooth now, can you? Probably not.
No, because hands free
So,
is like required in so many states. But
yep.
the rental car I had the last time I was in, oh, we even talked about it. I was in LA the other week. I had a
Right.
2020 Eclipse Cross, and the month before, or 2 months before, when I was there, I had an Outlander Sport, and I picked that because one, I hadn't driven one, and two, I was like, I know it'll have CarPlay, and I'll just use it. It'll be great. And it drove great. It was a great little car. And then I was like, oh, I haven't driven an Eclipse Cross yet. It looked more interesting than the other Nissan crossovers in the lot. So I get in it and I hook my phone up and I'm waiting in line to leave the place. And I realize it doesn't have any CarPlay. Like, what is the point of putting a giant screen if it doesn't do CarPlay or Android Auto?
Oh, the point of the giant screen, unfortunately, is the mandated backup camera.
Yes, but you could put that in the rearview mirror.
Right.
Like
But
a
the
lot of
screen is
trucks
already
do.
there, so you might as well have it do something. It's funny because my
The screen
Jetta
is already
Wag-
there for backup camera, but it might as
Yep.
well have CarPlay.
That's what I'm saying. Screen's already there. You might as well use it. So it's funny because my 2013 Jetta has a screen, but it's a 2013, so obviously CarPlay and Android Auto didn't exist. I don't think. But at the same time, it's this giant screen that just functions as a radio, and it's always bothered me to why they put a giant screen in the car that's literally just a radio. Like it should just have a normal radio function and not have a screen. It doesn't do any good having a screen in the car. Because
Yeah.
even the menu settings in it don't change anything in the rest of the car. They're all just for the radio settings. So it always seemed kind of dumb to have a big screen in the middle that doesn't do anything. It looks like the car should have GPS, but it doesn't. It's just a screen. Now, of course, if it had GPS, it would be way outdated now anyway, but
I
it just
wonder if
doesn't
some of
make
them
any sense
got
to have a screen there.
GPS and it was like a module that
Correct.
it would not be installed or installed. And
Maybe use the same screen no matter what.
yeah, like the difference between my base all track and a more expensive one was like a 6 or 7 inch screen.
Okay. Yeah, I don't particularly like the screens either, especially the matte finish ones, because you can never get your fingerprints off of them. So
Oh, I
they
don't.
always
I
just have
find
fingerprints.
I've got stuff that's invisible glass. It seems to work for me.
Huh. Well,
Plus, or maybe I'm using. I've also got Armor All that's for like dash and touchscreens. That's like a
is it
thing
a
now.
is it a flat screen or is it a like glossy?
It's flat. It's not glossy.
Okay, I'll try some of that stuff because mine like has a permanent um, fingerprint where the play pause button is, right in the
Hmm.
dead center middle of the screen. It's annoying.
Yeah. Speaking of repairing things, Right to Repair is back. Well, I guess recently, and they announced it a while ago, but Subaru like turned off all their telematics systems in Massachusetts
Yep.
because they don't comply with the law, or they don't want to comply with the law, basically, because they would have to provide all that data to citizens of
Right, and
Massachusetts.
they don't want to provide it just for the one state,
Yeah,
which is annoying.
which I guess is coming up to. That's where we get to this. So the right to equitable and professional auto industry repair, or Repair Act, has been introduced by U.S. Representative Bobby L. Rush of Chicago, Illinois. So this is going to be a nationwide HR 6570, a nationwide right to repair act, basically,
Okay.
which is because we kind of talked about this a while ago, that since Massachusetts is doing it, it's likely other states are going to do that. But
Yeah, I
turns out
mean,
maybe it'll just be a federal law.
so here's what one of these things that, and I'm going to stay out of the obvious comparisons to the gun laws because we don't want to get involved in that comparisons here. But one of the things that confuses me in general is why have a country where you have different laws regarding cars across the country? That's always been weird to me.
Well, that is a much, much
Yeah,
deeper. You have to go all the way back to founding of the U.S. government and how it works
sure, and
between states' rights,
I understand
federal
the
and
whole
state.
state. I understand the whole state. I understand the whole states' rights thing, but I think my issue with the automobile is, I guess, I guess there is the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, and there is the EPA, and there is all those things that do enact national standards. Maybe I'm talking about my butt here. Now that I'm thinking more about it, I don't know. It's sometimes confusing trying to know what's what in each state, but I guess there is a basic law for all of them, and then we have each state has their own thing on top of it. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna redact that whole statement. Never mind. Sorry, it's already correct.
Yeah, the states just have freedom to set their own laws as long as they don't go against federal laws.
Right.
That's the short answer. But it would be very good to have, and there's bipartisan support for this, to have a nationwide, um, basically right to repair act, because you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
just have.
Correct. You need to have it so it winds up being basically the manufacturer of the car shouldn't have to make different cars for each state. I think either.
This is true, but you shouldn't be, because cars are more complicated. We shouldn't be boxing out independent repair shops. Now, don't get us started on um, quality shops, because lately, you have experienced some issues with shops and dealers.
Sure.
We have some friends that have experienced issues with independent shops that have not been on the up and up either. So,
Yeah. Well, both
but
between my $6,000 clutch repair,
yeah,
quote, and our friend Joe with his Subaru getting 2 shops telling him he needed head gaskets when
yeah,
he didn't. But
yeah. So, but that's the other thing that you have right to repair, so that there is multiple independent shops. So you're not, so maybe you get the shady one on one side of the block, but there's a good guy on the other side of the block that'll help you out. And by having right to repair, everybody's got a fair shot at being successful at a shop, I guess, at being a shop.
well, yeah, the thing is that the consumer buys the product; they should be able to fix it wherever they want. They shouldn't be required to go back to
Or
the
fix it
dealer. I think,
themselves.
or fix it themselves. Yeah, I think that's basically the basic, thought behind the whole act. Right? It's to protect the consumer and not have to have the shop have the dealership have a monopoly on fixing the car.
Yeah, because what if?
So,
Well, yeah, I mean, look at those Mazdas, right? They can really only go to the dealer for that radio. I mean, a outside shop could order it, but
they probably can't. An outside shop probably can't program it. Yeah, it probably
yeah,
requires a Mazda computer to program it. Yeah, it's definitely an important act. We need to have a right to repair.
yeah. So like maybe if you could go in an independent shop and they had access to the software and they could program it, maybe it would be an $800 job and not a $1,500 repair.
And that's the other issue with the Right to Repair Act with the independent shops. If manufacturers stop allowing repair data to go out there, then eventually these independent shops are going to have to shut down. And that would be a huge economic issue because there's, hundreds of thousands of independent repair shops out there.
Oh yeah, it's a whole industry
So,
of people that.
yep. So it's protecting the consumer and that end user right there. So I
Yeah,
understand it completely.
and then what you came from the auto body industry. So what if you didn't have access to be able to fix people's vehicles and you had to go to a dealer owned body shop?
Correct. Like a Tesla.
Yeah,
Tesla still, I'm not sure how they do it, but they're still not selling parts to auto body shops in Massachusetts, even with right to repair.
really.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had a Tesla and it was rear ended, I'd have to go to a Tesla approved body shop.
Yep.
And how many of those exist? One?
Yeah, not very many, and they're obviously high end and busy, and you have to follow all their rules. So, and that doesn't mean they're good. It just means
No,
that
it
they
doesn't.
have, passed all the tests to get there. But at the end of the day, they could hire a new guy that works in your car and does it wrong.
Yeah.
I remember some of my last days in Massachusetts working at the dealership. I remember we had one come in for a customer actually that you know as well, Andrew, um, from the city of Lynn, to have his Tesla doors readjusted because he had the car fixed at a Tesla body shop and did a horrible job.
Oh.
And we had to readjust the doors for him.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it doesn't mean they're good. It just means that they're authorized. So, and we
Yeah.
couldn't order any parts. We just had to adjust the doors.
Yeah. Competition is good.
Yep. It is. Unfortunately, it's less and less of a thing every year, it seems, with everything, just from grocery stores to car repair. There's less and less competition all the time. So, there's how many different grocery store chains, but they're all owned by the same parent companies. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
we're trying to avoid the same thing with collision, not collision repair, but mechanic repair, because collision repair is going that route too. Most independent body shops are being bought out by these national chains like CarStar or Caliber Collision or any of these big names you hear all over the place. And they're buying all the mom and pop shops, and everything's just becoming, it's not a monopoly because there's like 5 different ones, but at the same time, it kind of is, because if all 5 of them are doing the same practices, then it kind of becomes a
Yeah.
monopoly, and it puts the small mom and pop shops out of business. So it's
LKQ
a
is
sign of
kinda
the
like
times
that
in
with
general.
salvage yards.
Sure. There's 2 different ones. There's LKQ and is it Pickup Parts, the other one?
Yeah, I think so.
where they buy all the different salvage yards and make them all one on their own. And then the biggest problem with that is that a lot of the salvage yards that had older inventory, they clear all that out and crush them and just keep modern cars. So when we're
Yeah.
trying to fix older cars, it's harder to get parts.
Now, on the positive end, they do inventory stuff and you can actually find what you're looking for.
Right. But then they crush the
But
car immediately.
yeah,
So
that's
it's not
why
easy.
I kind of like, I believe row 52 is just for independent places, really.
Mm-hmm. So row
So
52 doesn't buy the facility. They help with inventory management.
yeah, yeah.
So that's a little different.
Yeah.
So
Whoops.
I'd rather support that for sure. But I also have bought parts from LKQ, so it is what it
Yeah.
is. We're forced to get them where they come from. And look, I mean, Rock Auto does the same thing with independent um, parts suppliers. They buy out old inventory from independent parts suppliers and put them out and put it all in their big warehouse somewhere. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all everything at some point becomes a big conglomeration. It seems
Yeah.
interesting to watch all of it going forward, but I regret my whole comment on states' rights earlier, so I'm trying to walk it back.
Yeah. It's a long, complicated history of how our government's set up.
No, it really is, and I understand the states' rights because California has more cars than Utah, so they have different rules. So I get it, and it's probably why it is that way. But I think as
Mm-hmm.
far as the manufacturing goes, it's a little tough to have different standards for different states.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should kind of maybe go away. That
Yep.
becomes an issue when you're trying to buy parts for a car sometimes because the car has Mass or California emissions, and it becomes impossible to find the parts if you're not in Mass or California. If that
Yeah.
car
Well,
got sold off somewhere in
mass.
Tennessee or something.
Yeah, mass is California emissions. So
Yeah, it's all the same stuff, same parts.
yeah.
So, but it became when you work at a shop, you have to stock, California emissions parts and regular emissions parts, especially in a state like Massachusetts where it's so small. You wind up working on cars from New Hampshire and Connecticut and Rhode Island as well, and they don't have the California emissions parts. They have the federal emissions parts. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to apologize if my voice is a little muddled tonight. The story you'll hear later has me on a muscle relaxer pill from my doctor, and my tongue is getting tied here, if that sounds like.
Oh,
So,
all right. All right.
yeah, it's not good. I'm not drunk, I promise. I've been drinking water all day.
All right. On a more positive note here, Nissan came out with some retro styled Frontiers of the new Frontier.
Super cool trucks. Yeah.
Really cool. They're for the Chicago Auto Show. I thought they were renders at first because they were
Yeah, no,
so
they're
cool
they're
looking.
real. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So they're
my
on.
I want to combine two of them.
Yeah.
They made three different trucks, and one of them's got the 3-spoke 80s Pathfinder wheels,
Yep.
and the other one has the big 4x4 logo on the door that runs into a stripe the whole way down the side of the car,
Yeah.
and that's cool. But I want that with the 4Runner wheels. I mean the
Yeah.
Pathfinder wheels.
Yeah. I like the pickup bed light bar.
Yep.
Like why don't pickup trucks just look like this now?
I don't know.
Like stripes, I don't think ever went out of. Why did stripes go out of style? They're cool looking.
Yeah, no, I dig them. I would definitely do a blue Frontier with the blue and light blue and white 4x4 giant logo on the door.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So these are all over there. You can go find them. They're pretty cool though. The hard body concept is the red one with the tri spokes,
Yep.
and it's got like a flat black hood, black bumper, and the bed mounted light bar. It's pretty cool.
Chevy Colorado did a truck with a bed mounted light bar a year ago.
It didn't look as cool though for some reason.
Well, they
I
used
know.
a square LED light on the top, and the problem was
Yeah.
the light bar formed to the shape of the roof, so it had a curvature across it, and then the lights on there were at an angle because they were on either side of the curvature and they were square, so it looked hokey in aftermarket. It wasn't as cool as these are.
Mm,
I hope Nissan actually offers these as a package. I'm not in the market for a new Nissan pickup truck by any means, but I'd love to see them around.
yeah. So that's all I had for car news.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard anything else lately. Um, it's funny. A coworker of mine is a journalist, and he gets press cars all the time. And he had a we've talked about in the show before my interest in the new Ford Maverick.
Yeah.
So he had one of those the other day, and I was poking around a little bit, and it was decently optioned for like 23 grand. And I was like, all right, this is cool. I could dig this. And then his fleet service manager came down and swapped it today with a Santa Cruz. So he's reviewing them pretty much back to back. And I was looking at the Santa Cruz, and it's bad. It's just not good. On top of it being unattractive, the sticker price on it was also $38,000. So
Whoa.
I don't even know how they're competing in the same market. Like, obviously, it's got more options, but it was just surprising to me the difference between the two, and the amount of things you get differently aren't enough to justify almost two Mavericks for the price of
Are
one of those.
they competing in the same market, or are people just saying they're competing in the same market because they're a car-based pickup?
So I think they're competing in the same market because a base model Santa Fe is like 27, and a loaded Maverick is about the same. So there is a little bit of cross shopping there, but I was just surprised to see how much more this truck costs. It's about the same size. The bed's about the same size. I don't see any reason to buy the Hyundai other than the warranty. So I don't know. It wasn't my thing, that's for sure. I definitely preferred the Maverick.
Mm.
So, and for 23 grand, you can't really go wrong. So, any project car update stuff for you, Andrew?
Two of my, so one half of what I need to do the front shocks, like the upper spring perch and the bump stops, are in stock. Weirdly, like they're on back
Okay.
order, and they're like one of each came in. Do you want us to ship them? I'm like, no. We wait till
This
the
is
other
for the
ones come in.
Q45, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those will supposedly be in like next couple of weeks. So hopefully by the time it's warm out, I can do that.
Excellent.
We talked about it really quickly. I picked up the turn signals, the turn signal / marker lights for it
Yep.
at the junkyard when we had Jeremy on. I haven't really done much else because I was in California for a week. I didn't really get to do much car stuff. I was working. It's on truck stuff, but
Sure.
nothing like cool I can talk about.
Yeah,
Other
modern and
than
new
I
truck
went to it.
stuff.
Well, it's cool stuff, but I can't talk about it. So
Okay.
it's not announced. So the there was a cruise night kind of type thing. Shouldn't call it a cruise night because it was young people. So I guess it's a car meet that somebody took me
I
off
think
to.
the vernacular I've been hearing lately is pop up meet.
A pop-up meet. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So
Yeah,
not official, just a parking lot pop up meet.
it was definitely it was in a cool area. It was like, so I was down in Foothill Ranch, which is like Lake Forest. This was up in Irvine, sorry. So
Yep.
like 20 minutes away. Kind of actually near where Japanese classic car show was, right? That's
Okay. That's Anaheim.
I was pretty close, right?
Listen, my California,
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
my California geography is not great.
Yeah, it was definitely like a, hey, fellow kids, what's going on?
Yeah, I try to blend in.
But
I went to one of those as well this weekend. Very similar feels when I was there, but it was an all Mitsubishi gathering. I went to one last year out here too. Same gathering, same parking lot. They do it once a year, but it was a lot of Eclipses and a lot of Evos and a lot of people who I definitely don't relate to. So other than car stuff, it was definitely a strange crowd, and I mean it was neat to see that the DSM love is still going pretty strong, but it definitely wasn't my scene otherwise. So I stayed there for, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half because Moises drove up from Tucson in his V6 Sigma, like the 80, was that an 86, 87 Sigma? big Mitsubishi sedan. 20 had at
Yeah,
Radwood in 2020. Yeah.
yeah. Well, there you
So
go.
he came up with,
The two adults can hang out.
right. Well, plus he's a friend, so I can hang out with him. And he had his, 19-year-old nephew with him too. So there was a bit of a buffer between us, us and the kids. So yeah, we had the only two non either DSM or Evos there with my Blue Colt and his Sigma, and of course nobody had any idea what they were.
Yeah.
Only one. So there was a kid who had just picked up a 2-owner, 110,000 mile bone stock, beautiful paint, 1990 Eclipse GSX, and he's planning on keeping it stock, thankfully, because it's bone stock, like right down to the stock, stock air can. Still, like the car's bone stock. He knew what my car was, so that was one of the few there that did, other than myself or Moises. But it was definitely a hello fellow kids moment for myself as well. It was in the parking lot of a boba tea. Is that what it's called? I say that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
Boba tea store. Yeah, I don't really know what boba tea is. I didn't get any, but it definitely seems
I
like
don't know. The kids
a
like it.
youth culture thing.
I've been meaning to try it. I mean, so that was the other thing where this meet was a bunch of Asian restaurants. Like,
Okay,
really, it was a cool area, like a bunch of really cool Asian restaurants to get food. So
sure.
that was cool. And then, yeah, I don't know. I saw a bunch of Rivians. I don't know what changed the last couple months since I was in California, but it felt like every fifth car was a Tesla.
It probably hasn't changed. You just noticed it more.
Like every
'Cause every
time I come
time,
to like an intersection, there's at least two.
yeah, every time I'm in California, it's the same thing. It's all Teslas everywhere. All Teslas and Prii.
I mean, that really makes you feel like you're in a simulation because you're like, I just keep
They
seeing the
all look
same car over
identical.
and over
Yeah,
again.
yeah. It's the
And
whole
I will
Grand Theft
so
Auto effect.
yeah, and then like uh it doesn't matter what kind of car that is, but a blacked out car, blacked out tint, black California license plate is definitely a uniform.
Yep. And it's usually a BMW, a Mercedes, or a Tesla,
Or a giant pickup truck.
or a giant pickup truck. Sure, we go with
Yeah.
that. We don't like giant pickup trucks. They're mean.
Hmm.
I got black sooted on for probably about a half mile last Friday. I was quite angry. Anyway, so I spent the weekend doing a bunch of little repair things to the Saab.
Yeah.
We chatted about that car a bunch because I drove it across country over New Year's. I did just a bunch of little stuff. Like I don't know if I talked about putting the mirror on it before. So I replaced the broken mirror with a new mirror. I took the wipers off and I scuffed them all down and primed them and painted them black again because they were all rusty. I took some of the aerosol carpet dye, and the rear shelf in the car was like, it's supposed to be a dark gray, but it was kind of all faded to a grayish green terribleness. So I took that and I re-dyed that to a nice, black color that matched the rest of the back of the car trim. So that was really nice. I spent way more time than anybody should making the black trim around the car black again. Just multiple applications of product until it stuck, until it stopped like sucking it in every time I put it on. Especially the rear spoiler, because the rear spoiler isn't really porous; it's like a hard plastic. But I actually found out that I made it look black again by using like just a little bit of the tire shine that was left over on a rag, and like really wiping it in, and then really wiping it down with microfiber, made it like kind of a matte finish. So the experiment was going to be see how long that lasts, because it looked really good, and see if it didn't run down the side of the car when it rained. But yeah, so I did all that. I cleaned up all the door jams under the hood. I basically detailed the whole car, because the plan was to take the car to Austin, Texas in 2 weeks for Radwood. So I wasn't sure whether I was going to keep the car or sell the car, but I at least wanted to get to Radwood to kind of like finish the story of driving across country and it being reliable and awesome and being a great car. So that was my almost entire weekend was spent detailing the Saab and little things here and there. I took one nice picture of it Sunday night at like golden hour, just a quick cell phone snap. And I was like, yeah, I was super happy with how it looked. Fast forward to Monday morning, and I drove it to work, and I didn't make it to work.
Mm.
So this is the story of why I sound tongue-tied this evening, because I'm on a couple of medications from the doctor, because I hit a cement wall at about 45, 50 miles an hour.
Oh, so you entered it in the Coliseum race in
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk about that either.
No.
So yeah, the Saab unfortunately is no longer with us. I will say it did its job. It protected me mostly. I'm pretty sore. I'm pretty upset. I'm having a hard time with an insurance company already. I'm trying to avoid going through my insurance and going through his insurance instead, because it was not my fault. It was I don't want to say too much yet. Once everything's settled out, I'll get into the details. I'll have a whole episode of what happened and how it happened. But a short version of a long story, he hit the side of my car, and his much bigger vehicle tangled with mine. And when he lost control of his truck, I was along for the ride. And after the two vehicles separated, I had about enough time to go, oh shit, I'm going to hit that wall. And then I don't remember anything until the car was slowly coasting down the side of the highway. And I was like, I should stop this and put it in park. So it was definitely a moment in my life I don't want to relive. I don't recommend it. Unfortunately, I've been reliving it every time I go to sleep, but hey, that's part of life, right? So they say that the body protects you when you have an incident like that and makes you not remember things. So, but then you do remember it later on in dream experiences. So it's been an interesting week. But yeah, sadly, the car is no longer with us. It's quite bent. It's got damage on the left front corner where the other party first hit me. And then it's got damage on the right front corner where it was driven into the wall. The whole corner of the car is missing. And then once it hit that wall, like I said, probably at about 45 miles an hour, it was like a cement K-rail. It swung the tail of the car around, and it took out the right rear corner of the car as well. So the quarter panel is stuffed in there. And on top of it, the roof is buckled in the middle, like in three places. So both airbags went off in the front. It's before seat sensors. So the car gets in an accident, any bags that are there go off. So the two bags went off.
Those aren't dual stage bags.
No, they are not. I had injured my thumb about 2 weeks ago, and it was not feeling great, but it wasn't like too bad. And it's now broken. So I don't know if it was broken before the accident or just sore. I never got x-rays, but after the accident, I went to the hospital and got chest x-rays and hand x-ray, and my thumb is broken at the base on my dominant hand, of course. So whether it was broken or not before, I don't know, but the airbag certainly would have ended that anyway. So I'm in a bit of a splint here trying to keep it stationary. So yeah, so it's been a week. Suffice it to say, I didn't work on Monday. I didn't go back to work until I did about a half a day on Tuesday. And I drove back into the office on Wednesday. But yeah, I'm not 100% yet. Hopefully that doesn't come through too much in this podcast, but I'm definitely not. I'm definitely in a
This
weird...
podcast is never 100%. So
no, I think this is going to be a particularly bad one. So I'm just apologizing for that. But I'm pretty bummed. I was really getting into the car. I was really making it look nice. Like I said, I wasn't sure whether the plan was to keep it or sell it, but I at least wanted to finish the story of getting into the Radwood in Austin and coming home and decide from there. But I was leaning towards just keeping it because it was a nice car to drive. I don't usually buy an automatic, but this car was an automatic, and it was nice just to cruise to and from work in it. So Not that I took it to work every day because I didn't, so the Volkswagen, but I was eventually going to make it the thing. But yeah, unfortunately, it's no longer here. So, but I am, so I guess that's the important part, right? The car did its job. It protected me. I can't say enough. I'm glad I wasn't in something older and lighter and thinner. So I guess if you got to pick a vintage car to drive into a wall, it might as well be a Swedish one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do not recommend driving into a wall. It has not been a fun week. It's
No, I bet not.
it's a moment I never want to relive. We'll put it that way. I can't get it out of my head, and it's been hard. So I think you put in the notes a true sob story, and that's
Yeah.
it is.
It
Yeah,
is.
I think I've had every human emotion has gone through my head since Monday morning at 8:00 in the morning. So thankfully, Naomi was able to drive out there and pick me up because I couldn't drive the car anywhere. And the responding police officer was on a motorcycle, so he couldn't bring me anywhere either. So it definitely changed the direction of my week and my car life for the next few months at least. So fingers crossed it all works out. We won't know until we know, right? I mean, at this moment in time, there's no witnesses. Nobody stopped, despite the fact that there were cars everywhere. Nobody stopped. Everybody just kept going.
Well,
So
it's one way to get rid of a car, unfortunately.
yeah, I guess. But now it's going to be a fight to get what the car is actually worth, possibly too.
Yeah.
So I'm just it just really sucks. It's one of those things like you truly never know. You try as hard as you can to avoid these things, and when once it's all settled down and I can tell the story, I think everybody that hears the story will be quite angry, because I'm angry. The way it happened was frivolous and dumb, and it was all all due to somebody's impatience and anger. So I just happened to be in the way at the wrong time. So it's like I said, it's one of those things like you try your best not to get in an accident. When I'm driving one of the older cars, so Saab is kind of modern and it has airbags and it's a bigger, safer car. But if I'm driving the Colt or I'm driving the Cressida or any of those 60s, 70s cars, I tend to stay in the right lane and do the speed limit or plus or minus 3 miles an hour and just stay there and stay out of everybody's way for this particular reason. Because when you start mixing that up with the traffic that's going faster, you never know, right? And that's where we're at. So hopefully by this time next week, when we record next week's episode, I'll be able to say next week's episode without slurring the word together. And I'll be able to breathe and not have these like pains in my chest from smashing into the airbag or the steering wheel or whatever.
Probably the seatbelt too.
The seatbelt, yeah, definitely. There's a permanent, well, not permanent, but there's a nice black reminder across my entire midsection from the seatbelt. So all the things. 45 to 0.
Shouldn't have worn your seatbelt.
Yeah, right. I'd gone through the windshield. Listen, I am intensely glad that they had cement K-rail there, because anything else, it's not like a immediate like down off a cliff. That's all right. He walked in here with a squeaky toy. It couldn't have been any of the quiet toys. It had to be the squeaky toy.
Here, look at me squeak this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, now I feel bad because he's blind, and I just threw it out in the hallway, and now he can't find it. So,
he can smell it.
Yeah, he'll get there eventually. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad the K-rail was there because the other side of the K-rail had a pretty hefty, drop off, and it would have been a rollover accident at that point. So, I guess if it had to happen, it happened in the right car. It happened in the right area, and it is what it is. Depressing. That's what it is.
So when's Radwood in Austin? End of February or March?
It's last weekend. Nope, it's last weekend in February.
Oh, all right.
So
You gonna take the Eclipse?
Either Eclipse or the Sapporo. Not sure yet.
Take the Eclipse, the MVP.
Or the Sapporo. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah,
So it depends.
I know Eclipses get AC and can drive the windows up.
It does. It does. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. This is all still fresh. I haven't been able to even like change any plans or anything yet. So I don't know. Yeah. NASCAR went to the Coliseum. Change subject.
I mean, it was. Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about it before because I thought it was the kickoff race, but it was exhibition.
No, Daytona 500 is always the first race of the year. The Busch Clash has always historically also been in Daytona,
Yeah.
but it's always been just a non-points exhibition race. So somebody had the cockamamie idea to do it inside the LA Coliseum.
Which on paper I was like, that sounds insane, and then they built
Yep.
it, and I was like, all right, it's like a short track, but just in a cool area, I guess.
It's a very short track. It's a quarter-mile track. What was crazy? The crazy thing to me was looking at the infield of the racetrack. And normally in the infield, you see all like the haulers and the people camping and all that stuff. But there wasn't enough room for more than like double stacked up pits and like a RAV4 and a Camry pace car. Other than that, it was full.
Well, they didn't even do. It was all like the pits were all engineered. Basically, you couldn't just pull into the pits unless
Correct.
you really had to.
Correct.
I thought it was really cool because they did a bunch of heat races, like 25 lap heat races of like 10 cars or something, and the top 3 or 4 would go on to the main event. Yeah, so it was really cool, and I was like low key like there was an ice storm the Friday night I was supposed to fly back, and I was like, oh, wouldn't be too annoyed if I had to stay over the weekend, and because the tickets were like super cheap. So I don't know. I kind of wanted to go, but I ended up watching on TV. It was really good. I thought it was really good. You get the cars, like the heats were pretty clean. The last chance heat, that started getting a little rough, a lot more cautions. And talk about getting thrown into K rails.
Yeah. They're a little more prepared for it and they're wearing the right equipment.
Yeah.
I was driving down the street just enjoying a podcast, drinking my coffee. It was not the same. I didn't watch any of the heats because I was busy working on the Saab, fruitlessly apparently. So I didn't see any of the heats. I did watch the main event, and it was pretty neat the way they set it up and the way they got new fans there. Like,
Yeah.
Listen, I might not be the world's biggest fan of Pitbull, but he certainly brought in a crowd of Pitbull fans. And then
Well, he owns a team.
He does own a race team now. Yes.
Yeah.
Daniel Suarez is the driver.
I don't know.
I think Suarez is the driver. It's made a big deal last year because he's the first Mexican NASCAR driver, and
It's fine.
he's relentless. He's relentless. He won't go away. Anyway, so I did watch the main event. Like I said, they started with Pitbull. They kept panning across the crowd, and the crowd was nothing but like 20-somethings, like very LA looking 20-somethings, with like the occasional like hardened NASCAR fan mixed in between them. It was a pretty strange mix for a NASCAR race, but that's what they need to do. They need to entice this younger population to get into NASCAR. I was even wondering if they went to like local colleges and like gave away free tickets to young people to make
They
it
must
look,
have.
yeah, to make it look more, hip and young than it was. And then they had a halftime show, which is like, what am I watching? At a football game? Like, this is so weird. So they had a halftime show.
If you're doing heats and then you do a main event, yeah, you throw a show in there in between.
Yeah, it was just neat. I mean, I like that NASCAR is now trying new things. At least they've been stuck in the same traditions forever. And this is also importantly, which we haven't even touched on yet. This was the debut of the new race car.
Oh, the next gen car, yeah.
Yeah, like they have a sequential gearbox and they have a steering rack instead of rack and pinion. I mean, instead of recirculating ball. Like, and they're transaxle now instead of just being a transmission and a rear axle.
Are they 5 or 6 speeds?
I think there's 6-speed sequentials. They got rid of the deep dish Steelies, and they have like a 17-inch mesh style wheel with a center lock on it. So they went a whole different world with these cars from what they're used to. Also, looking at the cars, they have like curves in the quarter panels. They're not just flat slab sided. The front bumpers
They're
have like shape to them.
yeah, they're composite bodies, so they have a little bounce to them. Especially they were beating and banging. They could take a
Yeah.
little abuse before just like falling apart.
Yeah, it used to be you bump two NASCARs together, and the aero was ruined for the rest of the race. Like these cars here, they have a little bit of give. So they could give a little bumper tap, and it wouldn't screw up the aero drag for the rest of the entire race. So I think it's all positive stuff. I think it's overdue for sure, but I think it's going to be all good stuff.
It'd be interesting to see him with a super speedway package at Daytona. So
yeah, well, that's in what, next week, week after?
I think it's week after, because this weekend is this Sunday is Super Bowl. They don't do it the same weekend,
right?
So I think it's the following weekend. It used to be speed weeks. They used to do them.
It used to be like weekend after the 24 hours, right?
Yeah, speed weeks.
Yeah. So it looks like it's the 20th. So February 20th. So it's not this weekend, it's next weekend.
Which, yeah, the Super Bowl is this weekend, right?
Correct. The Super Bowl is the 13th.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, listen, we are a media company that does not have permission to say that. We have to say the big game, Andrew.
The big game.
Yes.
The big pigskin game.
Yes. Big sports ball game is the 13th.
Yeah.
And then the 20th is the Super Bowl of auto racing. The Daytona 500. So
is that the Indianapolis 500?
Oh no, it's the Daytona 500. It's self named Super Bowl of auto racing.
Yeah, it's always like in February the Daytona 500 is the Super Bowl of auto racing. In May, Indianapolis 500 is the Super Bowl of auto racing.
Yeah. Nope. I think Daytona took it because it's the same month as the actual big pigskin game.
Yeah. So
anyway, I'm excited for NASCAR again. I know we did that last year. I watched a few races last year. Each year they're making it a little better, and I am excited for this year. Will I watch every race? Probably not, but I'll definitely watch the 500, and I'll watch the road course stuff. And if they do dirt tracks, I'll watch the dirt track. And if there's any day where I'm just not doing much and want to watch a race, I'll watch a race. So
what I should do is get off my butt and go to Watkins Glen this year.
Yeah, it'd be good. I don't know when it is, but I could see if I can make it work.
It's in August.
Probably not, but we'll see. It's going to be a busy summer this year, unfortunately, so we'll see what happens.
All right, cool. Is this an episode?
I think this is an episode. My voice can't do much more today either, so it makes sense to kill it.
All right, well, let's go.
Thanks.
All right, so as always, you know where to find us.
We should probably tell them anyway.
Should I tell them anyways? We might have new listeners.
If we did, they're gone because this is not a good episode.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
No, I'm kidding. It was fine.
I mean, it's mostly the same.
Well, I'm my whole voice and my whole talking. I've been hearing about it all day from people that I have been slurring my speech, so I'm not surprised.
That sounds that different to me.
Okay, good.
Yo, sometimes you show up here a couple cut waters deep, and so do I.
Yeah, that's true. I don't show up cut waters deep. It's usually throughout the progress of the event.
Yeah,
but
no. So yeah, well, I'm on Instagram, Racing Anger, on Twitter as well, Racing Anger. Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Instagram. Our new Instagram, Scale Autocast, with a soon to be recorded podcast. We're getting to it. And
both of us just bought a bunch of new equipment so we could do video with the right amount of light and the right amount of audio and the right amount of video. So
yep, that'll be a monthly podcast that is coming out because we certainly have a bunch of things to show off and talk about on that.
Yeah.
Brad, where can they find you?
As always, they can find me at TSISS350 on Instagram.
Cool. So, as always, keep cars analog. Wear your seatbelts.
Yeah, definitely.
Keep the bag in the wheel.
Yeah.
And aim for the roses.
Yeah.
Not the K-rail.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I didn't hit the roses because the K-rail was in the way.
Yeah.
Good night.
See ya.